Okay, welcome everyone. Good evening, and thank you so much for joining me on the Diana Wright Show live online. My special guest this evening is attorney Evan Rosen. He's a real estate attorney, and we are going to open up the gates of all the information that you need this evening so you can get your shoes and your boots on and try to sort out your foreclosure or the whole thing they are telling us about the market, whether it's great or it's not great. Is it fake or is it man-made to create another bubble? All right, don't forget our words for this week is hope and love, and also join my crusade, the I Love Me crusade, right here on the Diana Wright Show. The date is International I Love Me Day, and that's April 30th. That's declared here, and we strive to help you to love yourself and to teach your children to love themselves. Because if you love yourself, you can conquer just about anything that is in your path that you need to conquer. All right, so as we go to Evan Rosen, just before we do, just reminding you that if you miss a show, all you need to do is go to the website, dianawrighttv.webs.com. Go to the bottom of the page, click on the YouTube icon, and then, of course, just press and you will see all the shows that you've missed. All right? Our special guest again, and we invite you, each and every one of you from around the world and in the United States, we welcome you to the program and hope we can inspire you, educate you, give you some information, and pull you out of that depression or whatever you're in, whether it's a foreclosure or it's something at home or something at your workplace. We hope that we can give you one word or two to make it better. All right, so let me welcome Evan. Hi, Evan. How are you?
I'm doing fine, thank you. How are you?
I'm good, and I thank you so much for taking the time out in this Holy Week, because I know this is Holy Thursday. Thank you for joining us on Holy Thursday, because we appreciate your time. Thank you for joining us on Holy Thursday.
It's my pleasure. It's great to be with you today.
Okay, all right. Let me start off, Evan, by asking you, first of all, is this new thrust that they're telling us, oh, the housing market is getting better, you know, your home values are going up, but then, whoops, a lot of people are still underwater. Is this a real improvement in the market, or are they just kind of artificially trying to do something?
We are very much in the middle of a very unique, unprecedented bubble in our country's history. For the last year approximately, a company known as Blackstone Group, one of a number of major hedge fund funded operators, Wall Street insider type, big investors, Blackstone Group is reportedly buying $100 million worth of property a week.
How?
They've
Wow.
been doing that for about a year. They've spent about $3.5 billion to date, according to the Wall Street Journal. This is one of many.
Wow.
And it's really concerning because what we're seeing on multiple levels is a shift from a property ownership society to a property renter society. And I think that there are some consequences on a number of different ways that are going to come out from this that are not conceived, that are and we're not ready for.
Okay.
And we can discuss some of those that I have some of my concerns about. We can get into some more statistics as well about what's been going on.
Okay, so is it that home ownership is going to be not something that most of us can achieve anymore then?
You know, that's a whole nother issue. And
Okay.
since the bubble burst a few years back, affordability still remains to be a really big issue for a number of people. As I look around the market, and you see more and more homes in good communities with good schooling, they're out of reach for the teacher, the firefighter, the policeman. They're just not affordable. You're talking about even a $350,000 or $400,000 home that used to be a $200,000 or even $150,000 home before the boom, and yet salaries we know are down.
Right.
For all of us, except the big executives in general, on average, and so it just doesn't compute. And so what we're seeing is this massive influx of corporate dollars, of Wall Street investor types, who are trying out a new model, and that new model is resulting in a bubble. The new model being, let's see if we can rent property back to homeowners who are people who are now dispossessed homeowners at a profit.
Wow.
And what some of them are finding out, including recently a company known as Zif, was a private equity fund.
Where do they get these names from? What is it? Zip?
It's probably two people's last name, OCH-ZIFF. They were one of the first ones into the market a couple years ago doing this, and late last year, they decided that they were going to exit this market because profit was not what they thought it might be. And I think some of us who have rented property before, or some of us who may have dabbled in an investment property, have realized, or have friends or family that have done it, that renting a property is not as easy and as headache or hassle-free
as you think, right?
Yeah, so you're on thin margins, and then one month you have a roof problem, or you have a water heater that goes, and there goes your profit for the whole year.
Amen.
Right. And not to mention phone calls with from different issues with different tenants depending on what's going on in the property. Down here in Florida, we have hurricanes and other things that can happen that can create damage.
Right.
So it's not all it's cracked up to be. And there are a number of other issues that we can talk about with this. And it's very, I find it to be very disheartening what's going on. I find it to be a very unfair occurrence of events since this crash and crisis that was very much man-made.
Right.
And I see and meet with people every day. I primarily do foreclosure defense work over these last few years. And as you know, I had a history of civil litigation.
Yes.
I'm just so called to this fight that it's to this day, and I work very long hours. It's not as rewarding financially as my prior practice was, but I'm so compelled and called to do this. That, myself and a number of other very good litigators have joined this fight.
Wow.
Because it's just been such an injustice on so many levels.
Okay, and we thank you for that. And I just want you to give yourself less headroom there, Evan, so I can see more of you.
Okay, so a little closer?
Yeah, no, just tilt your camera down a little bit so I can see a little more of you. The other way. There you go. Perfect. Oh, no, there you go. Right there. That, right there is good. Perfect. No, there you go. Right there. Okay, no, I'm losing.
Hold on, I'm sorry, I'll get it.
Okay, as you know, Evan fixes the camera. I just want to let you know that he was a personal injury attorney, and a very good one, and he truly gets emotionally connected to you as a client. I know that from personal experience. So I know that what he's doing now, the cause of real estate, is truly something to help you as a client that comes in and probably is having a problem that you feel so overwhelmed about. All right, so I just want to put that out there so people know. Okay, perfect shot. All right, I wanted to just go back and talk a little bit about a lot of people that I know that get foreclosure notice, they panic and they move out of their house. Is that the right thing for them to be doing?
No, absolutely not. I absolutely encourage people to meet with a professional before they take any rash action. You have time. You have 20 days after being served a complaint to file an answer or file a responsive pleading. That time can be extended if there are certain circumstances or for good faith circumstances in which you need to extend that time. That's routinely granted. But you need to meet with someone. You need to talk about what your options are.
Right.
And you need to figure out a game plan for moving forward. Throwing up your hands and vacating the property is probably the worst thing you can do.
Wow.
There's something that's called zombie debt. And it became familiar in the debt collection business, or became coined in the debt collection business, for a debt that would not die. So if you had a credit card bill and you discharged it in bankruptcy, that creditor might still call you. And that's where the term zombie, it never goes away. And they sell it to someone else, and then that person sells it to someone else. And after a bankruptcy, in that example, that's illegal.
Okay.
However, in housing debt, even after a bankruptcy, for example, in that same kind of scenario, you still are entitled to the property. If you leave your home, you're still entitled to the property.
Right.
if there is a fire,
Mm-hmm.
if there is someone that gets hurt on your property,
Wow.
if there is a theft or vandalism, if there is a code violation, overgrown hedges, whatever it might be,
Mm-hmm.
you will be responsible to the city or whoever that, whatever that entity might be,
Right.
for any of those examples I just gave.
Wow.
So there's a new phenomenon where people are doing what you just said. They're leaving.
Yes, because they're panicked. They're panicking, and and not knowing what to do. So they move because they figure, okay, somebody's going to come and throw me out.
Right. And next thing you know, you've made things worse. Now you have the government coming after you for a municipal code violation of some kind.
Mm-hmm.
You may have a water lien or other lien against you, and those are not things you want to have. Because a governmental lien or a governmental debt collector has pretty extraordinary power.
Right.
So, yeah, you don't want to do that, and you don't have to do that.
Okay.
In most instances, from what I see, my clients were being as reasonable, as careful,
Mm-hmm.
as most other people were during the run-up. I don't have clients, for the most part, and I really can't think of any of them,
Right.
who intentionally tried to game the system in which banks were giving out money to anyone that had a pulse. Families. And they wanted to live the American dream, and they were being told by the President of the United States and everyone else that, home ownership is so important.
Yes.
It's part of building America, and here's all this money to go buy a house, and don't worry, you can afford it, and I think a lot of people rely on a major financial institution for input, and don't expect that they're going to be telling them something just to put them into a situation where they're going to be borrowing substantially more than they can afford. You would think a bank would not want to lend money to someone that can't afford to pay it back.
Exactly.
If the bank says it's okay, then maybe it is okay. Maybe I can afford it.
Yes.
I'm not recommending that by any stretch of the imagination, but I think that was a reasonable concern, a reasonable thought process for a lot of people. And so what happened was people were borrowing way more than they should have been. Banks were giving out way more than they should have been giving. And there was this run-up. And now, obviously, there were people that took advantage. But at the end of the day, I don't really hold a lot of weight to that side of the equation. What banks did in the run-up, where they were selling AAA-rated investment that was as good as gold, knowing full well that they had totally devaluated their process, they had paid off their credit rating agencies to rate their products, and selling junk to artificially package mortgages together, gather investors, and sell it at a profit. You can't compare that to a couple of people or however many, even thousands of people who were buying and flipping houses that they shouldn't have afforded. The criminal intent or the intent period just wasn't there like it was for the banking and the financial institutions to purposely lie to people and to make profit off of them in mass like the financial institutions were doing.
Right.
Is not even remotely comparable to what was going on the borrower side of this lead up. But that's kind of behind us. A lot of discussion about who's responsible, not responsible.
Right.
And now what we have this out of control financial institution and regulatory scheme that that really has made things worse.
Right.
The banks are bigger than ever. They're more consolidated and powerful than ever. I mean, too big to fail was a problem back in 2008. It's substantially worse.
Worse now.
Right.
Yeah.
So much worse. They've all merged.
Yeah.
Merrill and BOA, and you have WAMU that got merged up. You have JP Morgan Chase, who bought WAMU, has bought some other financial institutions.
Right.
You have a number of them.
Right.
So it's just gotten substantially more dangerous for the economy to have what's happened.
Okay, my special guest inside the Diana Wright Show live online is Evan Rosen. He is an attorney, and of course, he is specializing in real estate. Of course, he's a real estate attorney. So we're going to now move to and ask you. You mentioned something about bankruptcy earlier. I had it way down on my question to ask you, but now that you've mentioned it, is bankruptcy a route to take for some people who find themselves in foreclosure? And is it a good route to take, and what does it actually do?
Bankruptcy can be an unbelievable route to take. It's the most powerful consumer protection statute known to man, bar none. There's nothing like it.
Okay.
As long as you qualify, you can say goodbye to all your debts. You can keep a reasonable amount of property and assets and cash, depending on your status. For a married couple, for example, who is not claiming the benefit of homestead, you can keep up to $12,000 worth of property and cash, and walk away scot-free from all your debt. We've used it. I do bankruptcy as well.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah. When I got into foreclosure defense, I didn't see how I could not. It's just as an option for people. I needed to at least know enough about it to advise people. That quickly learned into me dissecting the statute and the code and the rules, and eventually doing it myself. Right. It's incredibly powerful. So I highly recommend it for the right situation. It's not for everyone. Right. It's I know you do cover some religious aspects in your program, and bankruptcy is part of the Bible. It's part of the United States Constitution. So there are two of the most important foundational documents in the history of man that reference our right to be able to discharge debt. Right. That if you get too far behind, you need to have a reset button. Otherwise, you just continue to work for no end, and people will either leave the country or God forbid, worse, take things to a different drastic measure if they just don't feel like they can get ahead. Right. There was a couple not too long ago in Spain who committed suicide in their house during a foreclosure that hit the press. Right. So that's another option that we've used, and I find it to be just a fantastic way to help people get started. And some of the other concerns, in addition to the moral and the religious concerns, you hear people talk about their credit score and how that's going to affect their rating. What we have found is if you take a person prior to filing bankruptcy who, let's say, has $100,000 in debt between mortgage, credit cards, student loans, whatever it might be. And student loans is a whole other animal, but we'll cover that a little bit.
Yes, a whole other animal.
Yeah. Let's leave that out of this.
Let's leave that out of that tonight.
So you have all this debt, and you can't afford to pay it. You certainly can't afford any new debt. And you can file bankruptcy at any point. Compare that person pre-bankruptcy to someone after bankruptcy who now has no debt. They have income that would support having some new debt, and because they just filed bankruptcy, they are prohibited from filing another bankruptcy and receiving a discharge for a certain time period, depending on which chapter of bankruptcy you just filed and which chapter of bankruptcy you're going into. For example, if you received a discharge in a Chapter 7, you cannot file another Chapter 7 for 8 years. Okay. So if I'm a creditor, who would I rather lend money to? The guy that is stacked full of debt, can file bankruptcy tomorrow, and can't afford to pay any new debt anyway, or the guy that just filed bankruptcy, has no debt, can afford to pay for some new debt, and cannot discharge my lien or my loan in bankruptcy? The latter is a much better credit risk. So we see that all the time. We see people's credit score within a year after bankruptcy improve on average by around 100 points. Wow. So it actually helps in that regard. But I'm not a big credit score guy anyway. It's just not. I try to counsel people away from looking at that. That just shows what kind of a good borrower you've been to the institutions. It doesn't show how smart you are
or anything like that.
Right. How ethical you are. So many different factors. Just how well have you paid back your debt? And I'm just not a fan of that. To me, the ultimate credit score would be, if it's possible, to have a 0 credit score, which would to me, it's not possible. Let's just say a score that reflects that you have no debt,
right,
and no loans, and I mean
you're debt free. That would be wonderful. Okay, I think that's what I aspire to do that. So
Amen.
I hope all my viewers are aspiring for the same thing, to have zero debt in their lives so you can sleep at night. Okay, my special guest inside the Diana Wright Show live online this evening is Evan Rosen. And Evan, you just mentioned that you did bankruptcies, and I didn't know that. So I would like for you to now tell all of us, including me, what are some of the services that you do at your firm? Because I thought it was just real estate. I didn't know you do bankruptcy.
Sure. We do foreclosure defense, debt defense, bankruptcy, real estate transactional work, real estate litigation, and I still do some personal injury work as well.
Okay. Do you do title work or you don't?
Yes. I'm a title agent, so we do.
Oh, so you do the whole gamut. So if I want to buy a house, you can be my title representative then?
Correct.
Okay. I didn't know you did all of that. Wow. And what number are people supposed to call just in case they, watch this and they want to call you for something? I mean, this is a long laundry list here.
Thank you. 754.
754,
400. 5150.
5150. Okay. All right, 754-400-5150. That's an easy number to remember if you are in trouble with a foreclosure. I'm sure it's easy for you to dial. My special guest again is Evan Rosen. He's an attorney, a real estate attorney, but his gamut of services are plenty, including bankruptcy that I didn't know about. All right, let me ask you this. If someone gets a foreclosure notice on their door or however it comes, what's the first thing they should actually be doing?
My personal recommendation is it's a pretty serious concern when someone shows up at your door with papers would be to contact an attorney.
Okay.
Contact someone that you can trust. Someone that, whether it be a recommendation from a friend, a referral. There are plenty of good ones, and there are, unfortunately, like everything else, plenty of not good ones.
Yes.
And that's just the nature of humans, I guess, and unfortunately. So, yes, that would be the first step to find out what options you might have. First of all, the service of process could be defective. The the complaint itself could be defective.
Right.
The documents that are attached or might not be showing that the plaintiff has the right that it says it has to your home. So we've seen all of that, and the idea is to meet with someone who will listen to you,
right,
and ask you what it is you're trying to do. What are your goals? Some people want to keep their house. Some people need a little time to figure out what it is that they want to do. Some people know that they want to get out of the house and move on.
Right.
Some people have all kinds of other debt that they'd like to maybe lump together in a bankruptcy. Some people would want to explore a short sale. There's a number of different avenues, and we've been fortunate enough to help people in every single one of them. I just got another principal reduction today. Wow. They're rare, but it was a very good principal reduction. The loan was $193,000, and now that we're going to be done with this deal, it's going to be $40,000.
Wow.
$40,000 principal reduction. Now, I'd love to take credit for that, Diana, but the truth of the matter is we do everything we can the same for every case. And in some instances, the banks, and I still haven't figured it out, unfortunately, some instances we have evidence of fraud and all kinds of false documents and issues that relate to their complaint, and I'm convinced that they'll never be able to foreclose on this property, and I don't get a good offer to resolve, and I have to fight them tooth and nail. Right. And in those instances, we've been successful in getting a number of cases dismissed. They'll eventually come back. They'll fix their paperwork and come back, and they're allowed to do that. Yeah. In other cases, I don't have a lot of leverage, if you will, and then they've made some good offers. Right. Particular case is heading to trial on Tuesday, and there are a number of interesting issues. This particular major lender has offered us a very enticing deal. I'm going to be discussing with my client tomorrow morning. Wow. And see what he wants to do.
Well, let me ask you this, though. When you hear these announcements, like I'm sure earlier on this year I heard an announcement, oh, now you can get a principal reduction if you're in foreclosure and you want to, sort this out. The government has provided funds. But then how do you even get these things? Because it seems so complicated. Everything that the government seems to offer seems so complicated. So is it then that you must really have an expert to help you, kind of swim through this deep sea of water?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a lot of faith in the programs. I really don't.
Oh, okay.
So I don't. I've changed my stance on that a little bit in recent months because of what's going on in the courtrooms, and we can talk about that at some point too. But I've softened on that. In the beginning, I felt very concerned about my clients handing over sensitive financial information to today's modern era financial institutions that have admitted to dozens of crimes, each bank, that have laundered money for HSBC specifically, laundered money for drug cartel in Mexico and Colombia, and just did it again, Argentina.
In Argentina, yes.
Doing the same thing. So, I view these banks as criminal institutions, as criminal organizations. If any other industry did what they have been doing, they'd be under.
Yes.
But this whole too big to fail, too big to jail, too big to even take them to court to try the cases. So I'm not a big fan of turning over my deepest financial secrets to these guys. I don't think they're going to use it in good faith. They just will, call me crazy, but I'm a little concerned about that. So that being said, a lot of these programs require you to do that.
Right.
And I've generally kind of laid it out for my clients. Look, here's what they're asking you to do. I like to take the role as a lawyer of being a counselor.
Right.
Giving you input and letting you make the decision. I don't want to tell my clients what to do. It's not comfortable for me. I want to tell them everything I can, pros and cons. I may even tell them what I would do if I was in their shoes.
Right.
But ultimately, I want them to be the now informed principal in the relationship who's going to tell me what they think is best for them based upon the input that I'm giving them. Some clients like that. Some clients just say, no, just tell me please what to do, and then I do the best that I can on those.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, so to answer your question, I think it depends on the situation, and that's a case by case basis. Some people might not want to disclose to a bank that they have a trust, or that they have some money from Aunt Jenny coming.
Okay.
And other instances, people that don't have a lot to hide say, you know what, why not? And add to that what's going on in the courtrooms now in South Florida, where there is a massive rush to push cases to trial. And I think it's even more compelling now that if you really want to keep your home, you might want to consider disclosing some financial information to see if you're eligible. Now, if the banks were different, and let's just say it was me and you, and I borrowed money from you, and I wasn't paying you.
Right.
And I said, hey, Diana, can you help me out? I want to get a new loan with you, and I would fully expect you to say, okay, well, look, I'm not really all that comfortable. You're not paying me now. Why would I give you more money? Why would I give you a new loan?
Right.
And tell me what it is, why I can now confidently, give you a new contract. Why would I? So I would understand why banks would want to see my financial information or my client's financial information. I get that.
Exactly.
Before they make an informed decision. It's just the history of what's going on that concerns me. There's never been a Florida law, a Florida rule of civil procedure created for one industry, specifically because of one industry's rampant filing of false documents.
Oh.
And in 2010, the Supreme Court of Florida passed a law that was only applicable to the foreclosure industry.
Okay.
No one else. They said if you're going to foreclose on a house, someone has to sign the complaint that says everything in it is true and correct to the best of their knowledge and belief, that they've read it and that everything is true and correct to the best of their knowledge and belief. Because there were countless complaints that were filed that weren't true, or that attached documents that didn't add up, or that were doctored or manufactured or fabricated just to try and prove their case. It was so out of control that the Supreme Court stepped in. So this is the type of industry we're dealing with. The David Stern firm, it was shut down. Marshall Watson, who was just recently shut down, and they had to They were forced by the bar to change their name. This is who the average homeowner will be fighting with or dealing with, and I don't recommend doing that on your own. I think that's probably not the wise decision. And foreclosure defense attorneys, the good ones, are very fair on their prices. Most of us charge monthly flat fees, so it's substantially cheaper than what your lowest mortgage payment would have ever been anyway.
Right.
And I'm not interested in just taking, and a lot of lawyers also are not interested in just taking money from people. I want to help you. I'd like to see you not pay me. I often will recommend bankruptcy to people where it fits because it's so much cheaper.
Right.
And it's quicker. So anyway,
that's another story. Okay, all right. My special guest inside of the program, Diana Wright Show Live Online, is Evan Rosen, and he's giving us information that it's priceless, basically. I want to ask you now, Evan, can you reinstate your status with the bank, getting a modification and getting principal reduction and everything at one shot, or is that something you just is impossible?
No, you can, and it happens all the time.
Okay.
Contractually, in your mortgage, you have a right to reinstate at any point up until even after they accelerate the loan. You have a right to reinstate. Reinstate, by definition, would mean that you're going to pay all your back due payments. You're going to pay legal fees, costs, etc., just to get the loan current again.
Right.
By Florida statutes, you have a right to pay off the mortgage if you were to get a new loan or come into some money somehow. Anytime up until a certificate of title is issued. It's called the right of redemption. That's redeeming your mortgage.
Right.
So those two options are available. That's obviously not an option for most people. I have had a number of clients redeem their mortgage, come up with money from family or friends or whatever to get it current. But that's not normally an option. For most people, they need to figure out a way to get a modification as part of that. And yes, those are all regular possibilities. The tide has been shifting lately, and I don't want to discourage people. But I would like to encourage them to contact someone that knows what they're doing and really lives this area of the law. Because the tide is shifting a bit. It's getting easier and easier for banks to get judgments.
Okay.
So if you're a big bank and you have the ability to get a piece of paper that says, I can collect money from this person for the next 20 years, that's a judgment. The judgment's good for 10 years, and you can renew for another 10 years, very easily. So it's 20 years, basically, that you can hound someone. Bankruptcy will get rid of that, but that's, again, another story.
Yeah.
But if you're a bank, why would you not take the property, sell it to one of these other Wall Street hedge fund people who will give you money for it? And in many instances, they're overpaying greatly for properties. I'm going to cite some statistics on that from a great article by Jack McCabe, who's a really phenomenal Florida real estate consultant. He's regularly quoted. I think he's probably the most trusted resource for real estate analysis in Florida.
Okay.
Doing this forever. He's one of the few that called the crash. Been doing this for 30, 40 years, and was on his yelling as loud as he could that this is not going to last. We need to figure out everyone needs to be careful.
Right.
And he quotes some article in this recent article from March 21st, a couple of days ago, a week ago.
Oh, okay.
About these bulk purchases from these Wall Street companies and how they are overpaying. So if you're a bank, why would you necessarily want to work out a loan modification at a 4% or current low interest rate when instead you can sell the property to Wall Street at overselling at overprice and get judgment against this potential borrower to chase? It's kind of enticing, and it ends in legal fees because you get the judgment relatively quickly. And I understand there's an argument that says, well, let's work it out. They become a paying customer again, and for the servicer, they can collect, begin collecting fees again. But this new shift is what I'm talking about that leaves me concerned that there might be less and less incentive for banks to work things out. It's just too easy for them, or getting easier and easier for them to get judgments. I'm in foreclosure trial regularly.
Right.
The docket has been picking up. I have 5 trials coming up in the next.
Wow.
So I'm in court regularly, almost every day, and I see a lot of foreclosure trials, and very often I'm the only lawyer in the room, other than the dozens of bank lawyers that are in the room.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people are unrepresented. The banks are able to ram these things through.
Wow.
Now they have the house, which they can sell to a Wall Street guy for more than they would sell it on the open market,
Mm-hmm.
and they can take the judgment and, you know, hang that around someone and follow them around for 20 years, hoping maybe they come into some money. So it's that's what we're seeing, this really interesting shift, and it's been very sad. You know, I grew up in a family of lawyers. My father was a judge. My uncle was a very accomplished trial lawyer and a mayor of two cities in South Florida, and I cousins that are lawyers. My brother's a lawyer.
Wow.
So see kind of this just mass shift of using the courts to shift real estate in such a dramatic fashion.
Mm-hmm.
It's disturbing. It's disturbing on multiple levels. I have an appeal coming up. Oral argument will be the end of April on a case that, if it was any other kind of trial, I don't think we'd be appealing. I don't think we'd need to appeal. I think the judge would have gotten the ruling right.
Wow.
What you're seeing is dozens of retired judges coming out of retirement, double dipping into the state's fund. They're getting paid their retirement money, and now they're going to get paid to go back to work, so they're going to double their salary all of a sudden.
Right.
And just more willing, seemingly, and eager to believe the banking industry and their robo-witnesses, if you will, who come in and repeat the magic words of evidence without even knowing really what they're saying sometimes.
Yes.
Which is what happened in this one case that I'm appealing, among other things.
Right.
And rather than enforce the rule of law and the rules of evidence. And it's not every judge, it's not every case, but it is happening, and it's disturbing to see. Someone who cherished and was around the law my whole life.
Yes.
I just didn't expect to see what I'm seeing. Lady Justice is blind. It doesn't matter whether you have money, color of your skin, whether you're a bank or you're a person. You should be treated equally in front of the law.
Right.
And, well, I'm seeing something different in the courtroom.
Yeah. My special guest, attorney Evan Rosen. He specializes in real estate, and of course, we're happy to have him here live on the Diana Wright Show. And we welcome you from around the world and in the United States. His number to call him is 754-400-5150. That's 754-400-5150. I wanted to ask you, maybe you can even clarify this. I just cannot get it in my system how you can be in your house, you paid for, you have been paying, you've done well by the mortgage company. They have a current, say, cost of what the house is worth right now because they've done their due diligence to find out, okay? They send an appraiser, they appraise your property. They know that the property is not worth anything close to what you paid for it and it's underwater, yet they are refusing to sell it to you at that or allow you to refinance at that value. And people are just totally frustrated and don't know what to do.
Yeah,
is there any hope for us to even get past that?
Yeah, you hit a really good point. And it's just part of the overall unfairness of this entire situation.
Exactly. I have relatives that, been thrown out of their house and someone came and bought their house for like a fraction of, and why not give it to the person that's in the house?
Yeah. They call it the moral hazard, Diana.
Oh my God. It's just ridiculous.
It's a moral hazard. God forbid they should give a homeowner a break.
Yeah.
Because that would encourage other people who are current on their mortgage, but whose mortgage is worth more than the house is, or underwater, in other words, to then default on their mortgage.
Oh, okay.
Which would create, a snowball. And so, how we can't help out the borrower because we're so afraid that other people will do the same thing, and that's the quote-unquote moral hazard. And obviously the same argument applies to the bank. We keep bailing them out from these bad decisions.
Exactly.
Letting them get away with murder and crimes, not murder, but at least not that I know of, but crimes, and certainly a laundry list of crimes that they've admitted to. And where's the moral hazard in that? Stop bailing them out and stop letting them get away with it because they just continue to do it.
Exactly.
So, yeah, that's another one of the many injustices that we're seeing.
Wow.
And it's just so sad.
Yes, it is. It is.
Yeah.
A short sale, how does a short sale actually work? Can you just explain that in layman's term?
Sure.
And let people kind of understand what is a short sale? Are you allowed to stay in the property? How does that work?
Sure. I will try in layman's terms. I've been accused, as you know, I'm practicing law 16 years now. And the lingo and the verbiage gets so ingrained in your head. It's so unique, the vocabulary, that you begin to, and, you know, people make jokes about lawyers and, you know, being different. And you begin to talk and think. And the lines begin to get blurred. I spent so much time practicing law that, anyway.
Okay.
So in layman's terms, the best I can.
Yeah.
The short sale is when a property is worth less than what is owed.
Okay.
And you sell it to a buyer that is at arm's length, or in other words, see, there I go with a
an arm's length. Okay.
So you sell it to someone that you don't know, you have no relationship with.
Right.
Not a friend, not a family member. There's no inside deals. It's just a straight transaction that some guy that comes off the street or through the MLS or whatever it is, and he pays fair market value. And in return, the bank agrees to waive the not waive the short sale. The technical definition is just where the bank agrees that the mortgage will be satisfied for a lower amount than the full payoff. That doesn't mean that the original borrower, the seller of the home, is free from the debt.
Okay.
That has to be specifically included in the short sale approval letter that there is a waiver of deficiency in the agreement. Otherwise, the bank can still come after you in Florida for the difference between the amount that the property sold for and the amount that you owe them. So a short sale, by definition, is just the banks agreeing to a lesser amount to sell the property and release their mortgage, their lien on the property.
So the key to that then is to make sure that if you're doing the short sale, you're actually freed of the debt that is not being collected.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And I have a number of cases where people, that did not happen. They relied on input from others, and unfortunately, in some instances, some realtors who said things that they really should not have said, and it became it's become a problem for a number of people who come to me and say, I thought everything was discharged, I thought the realtors told me everything was fine, or the closing agent told me everything was fine, and now I just got a letter that they want me to pay $100,000 in the deficiency.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. There's a neighbor of mine that had a short sale, and that house was on a short sale for, I swear it was 2 years at least, minimum. Yeah. And eventually, they actually moved to another state, but the short sale, the house was still for sale. And then eventually, I saw someone living there, and I asked, and the person said they were renting it. So how does that was like really confusing for me. I just didn't understand how that came to that particular ending.
If they were renting from the owner, or did the bank take it over in foreclosure and rent it out?
I think it was they were renting from the bank.
Okay.
So what happens in a case like that? I just found it a little confusing.
Yeah, well, time-wise, there's nothing short about a short sale. They can be very drawn-out processes. The bank, by law, is supposed to give you an answer in 30 days under the new quote-unquote robo-signing settlement. But we routinely see that going over, and I encourage lawyers, I think we're one of the few that actually reports to the settlement administrator, who was a former banking administrator out of North Carolina, a guy named Joseph Smith. We report when it's over 30 days.
Okay.
Calendar, and on the 31st day we don't have an answer, we call. Now, nothing good's come from that. Another example of a settlement that is just not being enforced to help any kind of consumers and not helping consumers enough. And I think there's good intentions by the people that are working and helping to do that, but we get these letters that say, "Oh, we got your complaint," and then nothing happens. But nonetheless, we have had a number of short sales get approved. Obviously, they do, from time to time, take a while to get through. In other instances, we've had them get through relatively quickly, within 30, 45 days, at least till you get to the approval, and then you have to run the title work and get everything ready to close, which can take another couple weeks.
Is it likely that the bank will actually let you off the hook for the rest of the money in a short sale, or is it not likely?
Yeah, short sales used to be the kind of easiest thing to work out for people. There was a while there that banks felt as though this was a good deal for them.
Right.
The borrower felt some pain, so there was no moral hazard. They weren't giving them any kind of a great deal. You can't get any money. You have to leave the house. You got to sell. You got to move. So there's enough pain to not encourage other people to default on their mortgages. So I think the banks were happy with that. They were also happy that they were selling it at fair market value to someone else. Didn't have to go through foreclosure and take a huge loss going through that whole process. And it continued to foster the market. So that used to be the thing. And something happened for us the end of this year where there was a quota as part of the settlement. The banks were getting, there was a 49-state, $25 billion settlement for robo-signing.
Okay.
And as part of that settlement, banks were getting credits for short sales that they authorized. Oh. So basically, if there was $100,000 in deficiency that they waived in a short sale, they'd get a $100,000 credit towards the billions and billions of dollars they had to pay. So there was a huge rush to do short sales. It was great for them. They're getting all these credits. Well, I think they just met their quota. And so what we're seeing now is less eagerness on behalf of a number of banks to approve short sales.
It seems like the consumer is always, the homeowner will always get the short end or the bad end of the stick, as I call it.
Yeah, I've been saying something in my office lately, telling people about the golden rule.
Yes.
We were kids. We were taught the golden rule was to do unto others, right? And as you would have them do unto you. Well, the golden rule for this day and age appears to be he who has the gold makes the rules.
Exactly.
and that's what we're seeing. There's a huge push in Tallahassee to make it even worse. We're fighting now. I'm part of a group that's fighting a couple of House and Senate bills. They want to make it easier for banks to get foreclosures. They want to be able to ram through more of them. I'm frightened by what I see. There's 2 judges now in Broward County that are starting that will be handling nothing but foreclosure trials.
Wow. And
these guys, they get trials done in 5 minutes per case.
My goodness.
So you can see hundreds of trials a day times 2 courtrooms, maybe thousands or 1,000 or so a day hitting the market. There's about 380,000 backlog statewide, according to Lisa Goodner, who was the state court administrator. There's another 600 and some odd thousand still in the pipeline.
Wow.
Which haven't been filed yet, and that's according to her. I don't know where she's getting that data from. She's probably relying on the same people that get their information from the banks. So I'm not sure how reliable that is or not. It might be.
Okay.
So what we're seeing is this rush of foreclosed homes hitting the market, and it takes us back full circle to kind of where we started. What's going to happen when there's 1,000 foreclosures per day hitting the market, to the economy, the state of mind, to the neighborhoods, all these people that have all these uninhabited homes? What about all the demands on the sheriff and the local municipalities to trash out all those homes, to serve writs of possession on the homes, to vacate them, to throw all the furniture on the sidewalk if you don't vacate? I don't see what really, this is such an unsustainable process. And like you said, once again, the consumer gets the raw end of the deal.
Yes. Okay. Well, let's talk a little bit about modification. Is that still a thing that's happening? Or because I see it on the news even this week, I see there was some organization in Florida that got some money. They can help people modify loans, or there's always something. Is there anything really out there for a homeowner who wants to truly modify their loan?
Absolutely. There are options. Like I said, I just got a great offer today, at the end of the day, a major principal reduction. And we've had a number of loan modifications. Like I said, it's hard to tell what circumstances are going to lead to a successful modification at this point. Banks appear to be, very fickle.
Yes.
But we've had, like I said, we've had a great number of them. And with great types of arrangements, so those are still options.
Okay.
And it just depends on what people are looking to do.
Okay.
Like I did mention, there is that shift and that concern towards banks pushing to get judgments instead. As well, you mentioned a program. I think what you're referring to might be either the $200 million that was allocated from the robo-signing settlement to help allegedly people get modifications and help and assistance. And one of the things it was going to do is to help state attorneys with down payment assistance, because state attorneys are people coming out of law school have a lot of money in debt, and they can't keep their commitment to the state attorney's office because they don't make enough money to survive, to pay their bills and pay their debt. These guys are coming out of law school with 6 figures in debt. And they have $30,000, $40,000, $1,000 type salaries a year. That's not going to be sustainable, but that's not helping people with housing problems necessarily. But so they earmarked some of that money to these guys, and what was crazy is there was allegedly a $200 million trust fund that was being used for some other housing related issues, and I just read this article the other day. Well, guess what they did? They took the money out of that to put it into the General Appropriations Fund, if I'm not mistaken. So there's no net gain once again. It's like when Florida passed the lottery. I don't know if you remember that. They gave a bunch of money from the lottery to the schools.
Yes, supposedly.
Got taken out. So, yeah, that's another thing. But, yeah, to answer your question, there is hope. I get so frustrated with the banking industry and what's happening. A lot of us do who live this. And the overall unfairness of what's happened.
Right.
But there is hope. There are options. We help people every day, and it feels great to help people. I just, I want to keep doing everything we can to help everyone we can. I'm a firm believer in service. That one of the things that I try and do is figure out what skills or talents I've been blessed with, and how I can use those to serve others in a meaningful way.
Very good.
And that's what law allows me to do. I like to fight. I like to argue. I like to stand up for people.
Yes.
And I like to see if I can fix an injustice and see justice prevail. So.
All right. Our special guest inside of the Diana Wright Show this evening is attorney Evan Rosen. He specializes in all things real estate. That's all I can say. All right. His number to call is 754-400-5150. That's 754-400-5150. I go slow because I know a lot of you complain that I rattle off the numbers too fast and you don't get to write them down. But don't forget, you can go to my website, dianawrighttv.webs.com, and you can just go back to the show and, hear all of the information for yourself in a timely manner. Okay, Evan, I wanted to ask you, is there a difference in getting a modification or a principal reduction if you're actually dealing with a servicer of a loan or a bank, say at JP Morgan Chase, as opposed to a servicer?
Yeah, there should be, and there is. We've seen it. JP Morgan Chase can service and can own loans. All of the major servicers typically can do both. Some don't. Some just service. But there can be a difference. So there's totally different incentives for a servicer than there is for a a person that actually owns the loan. That generally, if you can get to the owner, then I think that might be more helpful. They might tend to actually want a performing loan again on their books, whereas there might be incentive for a servicer to continue the foreclosure, to rank up more fees for them in the process. There's inspection fees, there's title fees, there's bankruptcy analysis fees, there's all kinds of junk fees. And then when they foreclose eventually, they get all those fees off the top. So in some instances, if you can get through to the owner, it's better. But that's not always possible, and there have been workouts with servicers, plenty of them.
Right.
So yeah.
So that's a major task for the attorney to actually get to the owner of the loan, then.
If possible, right, to get to the real party in interest, we call it.
Right. Okay. Alrighty. Well, ooh, wow. I didn't realize we were talking for so long. It's almost an hour now. But anyway, I just wanted you to, just kind of speak to people who are either in foreclosure, worried about their property on the water. What is the possibility of, should they be hopeful that something can actually happen for them?
I'm a realist. I like to try to be an optimist, but to answer your question, and you can't find that answer out unless you don't try.
Okay.
To do nothing is the worst thing you can do.
Right.
If you think that you want to explore some options, then it's worth speaking to someone who specializes in this area of law, who focuses in this area of law, who can guide you through a number of different options. There's short sale, there's deeds in lieu, there's consent judgment, there's loan modifications, there are all kinds of structured settlements where you have cash for keys.
Right.
I've gotten clients 5 figures in a cash for key workout where they're walking away with a significant amount of money and staying in the home for another 3 to 6 months and then agreeing to vacate the property in swept clean and broom swept condition.
Okay.
So and there's bankruptcy to get rid of the debt. There are a number of options.
Right.
And you just have to explore them. You have to put one foot in front of the other. If you sit home locked in fear,
yes,
I can tell you what's going to happen. You're going to get a judgment, and the house is going to get taken away eventually. It's just that's what's going to happen. On the other hand, if you do something about it and you speak to someone that's educated and really passionate about this area of law, you can find some help. Just be careful, because where there is people in fear and and concerned, there are
vulnerable
people who are looking to take advantage.
Yes, I wanted I wanted to ask you a final question before you go. You mentioned, we talked a lot about bankruptcy, but what are you allowed to have if you're going to file bankruptcy? If you have a nice car or a nice, whatever, is that a detriment to filing bankruptcy if you have a nice car? Because I heard someone talking about that the other day, say, well, I would not advise you to file bankruptcy if you have a nice car that's paid for.
It depends. A lot of trustees and courts will look, poorly upon someone that's keeping a nice car. Where, let's say, for example, you have a lease payment that's $1,000 a month, and you want to, reorganize your debt in some kind of fashion.
Right.
You have a problem with that.
Okay.
And it can affect other areas of your bankruptcy. Now, technically, as long as you're going to honor your lease payment and you meet all the other criteria, in most instances, you can keep that lease payment.
Oh, okay.
So it just can affect other areas. Like, for example, there's case law out there that talks about waiving the filing fee. There's a $306 filing fee in a Chapter 7 case.
Right.
You have to demonstrate certain things in order to get that filing fee waived. But if you're keeping a fancy car, they're going to say, well, I'm not waiving a $300 filing fee. Go get rid of your fancy car, big guy.
Okay.
So that's an example where it can affect you in other parts of the bankruptcy. But that's rarely an option, and the really too much of a concern. The big concern is what is the value of the stuff you have? If you have an expensive car with an expensive loan, it's not worth anything to the trustee.
Oh, okay.
Because there's no equity in it.
Right.
So in a lot of instances, they don't care, and no one else will care. If you want to keep that, big loan, it's not really the wisest decision necessarily.
Right.
Financially, that's not really, you want to use bankruptcy as a once-in-a-lifetime thing to really get a fresh start.
Okay.
So if there's a big debt or an expensive car, this is the time to reorganize your life and get yourself on track. In most instances in a 7, if you're not keeping a home, you can keep up to $6,000 worth of personal property, including your car. If you're a married couple, you double that. You get to $12,000. If you're keeping a home, if you're claiming the benefit of homestead as a statute,
right,
then that number goes down substantially. Florida has unlimited homestead protection.
Right.
After a certain number of time, but it basically has unlimited homestead protection, and you would be keeping only about $2,000 per person worth of stuff if you have, if you're keeping your home. Okay. A lot of my clients don't keep the home or don't have a home to begin with. So, but a lot of them do, and a lot of them use bankruptcy as a last means of defense in a foreclosure case. We had a foreclosure client not too long ago that came to me and had a judgment entered against him, and they were about to sell the property. What can I do? How do I do this? I said, well, other than paying off the judgment in full, you can file bankruptcy. Those are your two options, and the bankruptcy will temporarily at least stop the sale. Okay. We did that, and it's buying him some time. Unfortunately for that client, his wife was able to land a fantastic job, and they're going to get back on their feet. So,
wow. Fabulous.
Yeah.
That's good news. Someone is actually getting good news out there, right? I wanted to ask you before you go, the fact that Governor Rick Scott is in campaign mode now, as we see since today, is there any hope in Tallahassee that anything can come down the pipeline for homeowners in Florida that are actually on the water or in foreclosure? Or no, that's dreaming.
Yeah, I wish that was the case.
I just figured, because I saw his ad that he debuted online today, and there were all lots of things saying, teachers are going to get a raise, and some wonderful things. So I just wondered, okay, I wonder if he remembers homeowners.
Yeah, well, what I'm seeing, and we're following this closely. I was on the phone at a conference call at 6:00 tonight with some other lawyers and some people inside in Tallahassee. There is a concerted effort to do just the opposite. It's the 4th year now that there's a push from the title industry, title insurance industry anyway, the banks, and their allies to make it worse. And it looks like this year they're going to get something passed. I encourage people to get on the phone, please, and email your congressmen and senators, your local legislatures. Go to their offices. That it actually works. Okay. The numbers of people that are calling it are 9 times, 10 times the amount of people that are calling on behalf of the bank. So we're out.
Wow, you're out called.
Yeah.
Well, I give out the number for Congress all the time because, whether it's immigration or gay marriage or whatever people believe in, I just give the number out so people can call and just remind them. You don't even have to know who your congressperson is or your senator. Just call and give your zip code, and the person answering the phone in Washington will tell you who the person is and put you on to that person. So
that's a great idea. And then for this, you want to call Tallahassee.
Okay, for this you want to call Tallahassee, though.
Yep.
And is there a number that you can give us that I can continue to give out?
Yeah, what I can do, we can put it up on your website maybe in a little bit.
Okay.
I can give you, a list of emails and the whole bit. Let's take a look if I can pull that up for you really quickly.
Yeah, because that I think would be something good for people.
Absolutely.
All right, my special guest inside of the Diana Wright Show live this evening is attorney Evan Rosen. He does everything that you can imagine in real estate, and you can give him a call if you have any questions, because I know a lot of you out there are nervous about your situation, or you're anxious because you just got a foreclosure notice, you want to modify your loan or whatever it is that you want to do. His number is 754 754-400-5150. That's 754-400-5150. Okay, Evan, are you getting me any numbers there? Or maybe because I'll just continue to give it out on a daily basis so people can be activated. Because, you know, I find most of the times people just sit down and expect someone else to fight their problems when you need to actually make that phone call. It's not going to cost you anything. You need to call Washington, call Tallahassee, whatever it is to get something done.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's a number of websites that I can give you to of how to do it.
Okay.
But if I can find a really quick phone number for you.
Yeah, because you know, people's phone number is easy because everybody jumps on their phone and put the number in and it goes.
Sure.
Because people, I don't know, I think people are just so fearful of everything nowadays. It's just like, you know, I had a pastor on this morning. They had a bus tour to a rally going to Washington last week, and they asked me to help them promo it. And you know, they went and it was very successful. They got to meet with all the senators and the Gang of 8 that's working on immigration. And he was just saying that a lot of Hispanics are brave enough to come out and say, here, this is my story. I'm here illegally. I've been raped. I've been this. I've been that. I've been abused, whatever. But he finds that the people like from the Caribbean or black people who are immigrants who are here illegally, they're so fearful they don't want to come out and say anything.
Wow.
You know, so that's the reason I'm saying this. People need to speak up.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I found the number that should work.
Okay.
It's 850
488
4371.
4371. Okay. All right. Well, you know me. I'll be the first one calling when I hang up from you. Well, it's night now. I'll wait till tomorrow.
Okay, great.
All right. Okay, Evan, thank you so much for calling, and I will continue to promo this number and ask people to call Tallahassee. Is there a time frame for this, or?
Yeah, it's working its way through the you really need to call every day or call as often as possible.
Right.
Certainly, there was a hearing today, and it passed narrowly. So in a subcommittee. So. There's a chance to defeat some of these bills. We're talking about specifically House Bill 87,
House Bill 87,
and Senate Bill
187, 16, and
Senate
Bill.
That's House Bill is 87. And the Senate Bill is 1666.
16. Oh wow, 666.
Yeah, go figure.
That's not a good number.
No.
Okay, I'll keep repeating this. I'll keep announcing this every day, and I'll get on myself in the morning and call. I think we have done the email thing already. We've done that, but I didn't know there was a telephone number that I could actually call because I love to dial my phone. Okay. Yep. All right. Okay, Evan, thank you so much for joining us, and have a great Easter. And we look forward to having you on again at least once a month, or you let me know when you have some new news that we can share with our audience.
Thank you so much, Diana.
All right, thank you.
With you tonight. Have a great night.
And thank you so much. Have a great Easter.
Thank you, you too.
All right. Well, wow. That was great. That was Evan Rosen, my special guest inside the program this evening. We thank him so much for joining us. And just before we go, I want to repeat his number, 754-400-5150. That's Evan Rosen, attorney Evan Rosen, 754-400-5150. Please give him a call if you have any questions, any concerns about anything happening with you in terms of real estate. Even if you're buying a new property, he also does titles for you. But this is important too for you to get on your phones tomorrow morning. I know it's Good Friday for some of you and you're religious and you're not going to use the phone and all that good stuff, but this is important. 850-488-4371. And the House bill that you need to be concerned about is House Bill 87 and Senate Bill 1666. All right? So I will continue to give these numbers out, and I thank you so much for joining me this evening from around the world and in the United States. We thank you for joining us, and don't forget, the words for this week is hope and love. And also, remember, come April 30th is International I Love Me Day, and you need to participate in that. You need to continue to love yourself and teach your children to love themselves. And if you go to the website, if you miss a show, don't forget, just log on to dianawrightTV.webs.com. And when you do that, you will just go to the bottom of the page, press the icon for YouTube, and you will see all the shows there for you to view. All right, so we will repeat the number again for Tallahassee. It's 850-488-4371. That's 850-488-4371. Call, and the House bill that you need to be concerned about is House Bill 87, and the Senate bill is Senate Bill number 1666. All right? Thank you so much. And give Evan Rosen a call if you have any questions about real estate, 754-400-5150. That's 754-400-5150. Thanks again. And if you love something, set it free. If it comes back, it's yours. If it doesn't, it was never yours. Have a good evening and have a great Easter. I will see you in the morning. It's Good Friday, and it's the Friday that we join Dax Dunn again right here on the Diana Wright Show Live. And we will talk about the news that's wow of the week and the big stories of the week. We will do that in the morning. So thank you so much once again, and have a blessed evening. Stay prayed up, and happy Easter. Ciao. What did I say? I forgot to say adios, and I forgot to say au revoir.